up, everyone? Welcome back to Web3 Data Degens. Today, I'm going to teach you how to analyze any crypto token in just 5 minutes. I've created a new dashboard. It's revamped. Basically, just 13 charts, tells you everything, all the context you need to know behind any ERC20 token. Now, if you don't know what an ERC20 token is, check out the newsletter below, or if you just want to read through this, check out the newsletter below. I have a quick primer here about how it's used in governance, how it's used in membership and DeFi. For today, we're going to be looking at the Optimism token, OP, which is basically their governance token for their chain. It's not the native token used to pay fees. Huge shout out for them for the retro public goods funding number 2. They've distributed, I think, like 10 or something million worth of tokens to the community. Web3 Data Degens was one of the selected winners. So thank you very much for that. Without further ado, let's get into the dashboard. So I like to think about tokens in terms of 3 categories, right? One is momentum. Momentum is just like how many wallets are interacting with the token and how are they interacting with it. There's liquidity, which is where tokens coming from and where tokens going to. And the last one is like distribution. So like how well distributed is the token? Is it fairly distributed? What are the average holdings by different percentiles? Let's just get into it. All right. In this dashboard, I've already put in the OP token. I've switched to Optimism. You can do any EVM chain. And I've started from April 26th, which was the day it was deployed. And I'm looking at things by month. I also exclude contracts. So in all of these like balances and distributions and whatever queries, contracts that are not multi-sigs or like contract wallets like Argent or Dharma, those are excluded from the analysis. We only really want to look at users. So looking at momentum, we can see that the number of addresses interacting with OP has increased pretty much exponentially since September 2022. All right. That's reflected in the token price. And if we break down their actions into either a new acquire, which means they didn't have the token before, or they're accumulating, which means they already had the OP token in their wallet, they just got more of it, or dumped some or dumped all, we can see that most of the new, like the wallets interacting with the token are either new or accumulating, right? So that's pretty indicative of a healthy community. It's worth noting that the volume has been pretty stable at about like 100 million tokens transferred. Note, this isn't traded, this is transferred. 100 million tokens transferred basically every month. So the volume hasn't really picked up. We can just also look at who's behind all these actions. So you can see a wallet's current balance, when they first acquired the token, how much total they've acquired, how much total they've dumped. And I've put some wallet labels here. I think this one is also an OP Foundation wallet, but if I just wanted to see all OP wallets, for example, I would just type OP here. And I think this is only one that's labeled, but there's 1.17 billion Optimism tokens in here. And fun little tidbit, this 662,000 rows, because this query tracks everyone who's ever owned the token, I can quickly look here and say, okay, there's been 662,132 holders of OP tokens at some point in time. All right. You might also want to see what transfer activity is happening. So in this query, I've shown you the 95th percentile of token transfers, right? So I think for Optimism, it's probably like 1K or 1.3K is like the 95th percentile of token transfers. You can see a lot of the transfers are from centralized exchanges, but it can be helpful to just search like multi-sig and just get a sense of, okay, what have all the multi-sig transfers been? This one was 141K, which is a lot. If I click into it, I can see, oh, it was transferred to the Optimism Foundation wallet. So that's probably just them like giving something back. But this is good to note and look over time of, oh, even in the last week, all these wallets that are multi-sigs have been pretty active. So let's get into the second section now on liquidity. So liquidity, there's token sources and token destinations. So sourcing is just saying, okay, for May 2022, wallets got 4% of their tokens from unknown contracts. 29.5% of tokens was just a wallet-to-wallet transfer. 19% of transfers were multi-sig to wallet. 12% were from DEXs, and then 35% were from OP, like Optimism contracts, all right? And you can see over time, this has changed, especially as I think it got listed on centralized exchanges in June, it looks like. So then 21% of token sourcing has basically come from centralized exchange since then. There's some other protocols here. You can see Rubicon, you can see Solid Finance is in here, Premia, Iron Bank, right? So these are all like maybe things you want to look deeper into, right? So if you clicked into this query and then put in the same parameters, I could actually search here like Rubicon and see like, all right, here's an example transaction. Let me just go and check out, dig deeper into what's going on in Rubicon, like why, what action is being taken. So in this case, they're withdrawing some shares, right? So that might be something I want to look into to understand why 35% of token sourcing is coming from Rubicon in October, November, December. Also important is where a token's going. A lot of the times you're not holding the token in your wallet. You've deposited it somewhere or staked it somewhere for various reasons. It could be for liquidity pool, for yield, whatever. And here you can just quickly see, oh, there's 50.9 million OP tokens in Merkle distributor, which is like means it's unclaimed yet or not distributed yet. A bunch of it is in like DEX liquidity pairs, but if you dig through this here, there's some vaults, there's some staking contracts. This is all stuff you can look into and see like net flow is how much it's holding over time, and then value in and value out, self-explanatory. No liquidity analysis is done without some sort of DEX specific analysis. So here I'm saying, all right, let me see the OP tokens liquidity per DEX protocol and the volumes, right? So if I wanted to be an LP or even just a trader, I would want to know like what protocols to swap or provide liquidity to. So here I can see that Uniswap and Velodrome are basically competing for the top spot. There's like a tiny difference in liquidity of tokens. This is notional, right? So this is 3.7 million OP tokens are in Velodrome, but the trading volume is like almost basically the same. So there's probably some incentives or farming going on here, just given how big the difference is between these two and the others. But it's just good to know if you're interested in the specific pool addresses, you can put these into Optimism scan as well. All right, third and final part, let's understand distributions. So in this case, I'm looking at what percent of holders are holding how many tokens. All right, so a good cutoff point is normally 50%. So if I just try and find 50% roughly here, so it looks like 50% of wallets, so 261,000 wallets, hold 3.5 tokens. So that's a pretty small amount, given we're about to look at total supply. It follows an exponential distribution. Not too surprising, given this is a governance token and it's got like over 500,000 holders at this point, right? It's good to know. For some other tokens like FWB, you'll see like a much more even distribution and like membership cutoffs, right? So if Optimism said like you have to hold a minimum of 100 tokens to gain access to something, you'd probably see a big like drop off at the 100 mark. Average holdings to total supply. So there's a total supply of 4.29 billion. This is just the time series version of this chart. So I can see, oh, there was a point in time where 50% of wallets held like 122 tokens each, but that's basically decreased to this tiny amount per wallet. Could be a bunch of reasons for this, but it's something that I'd be curious about digging more into, because I'm like, why are there so many wallets with only like tiny amounts of OP tokens in it? The Gini coefficient and Palmer ratio, I'm not going to go too deep into it here because of how, I don't want to say unequal, but how like exponentially distributed this curve is. These two metrics aren't super relevant here. But if you're looking at a smaller community, something under like 10,000 or 5,000 holders, then you really do want to look at these metrics, because like if it's only a 5,000 or like less person community, like it should be pretty evenly distributed. So that's the token overview dashboard. If you have any suggestions, you can just DM me on Twitter, or if you've put in a token and found something interesting yourself, please just share the chart with me, or just go share it on Twitter and tag me. I'd be very interested to see what patterns people find on different tokens. And thanks again for Optimism for the retroactive public goods funding drop, and I will see you all very soon.